You've spent your entire life believing that being nice was a strength, but deep down you've started to realize something doesn't add up. You've noticed that the nicer you become, the more people take advantage of you. The more accommodating you are, the less people seem to value your presence. And the more you try to avoid conflict, the more conflict somehow finds its way back into your life. That's because being nice isn't a strategy to succeed, it's a strategy to avoid discomfort. Niceness is often weakness disguised as virtue, and you've been hiding behind it because the alternative scares you. Alternative means stepping into the version of yourself who sets standards, who says no, who stands up straight when pressure comes. And you've never been taught to do that. You were only taught to be nice. The truth is, niceness is the lowest barrier to entry. Anyone can be nice. Anyone can smile, nod, and agree just to avoid confrontation. Anyone can stay quiet when they should speak up. Anyone can shrink their needs, their voice, their ambition to keep the waters calm. That doesn't make you noble, it makes you forgettable. It makes you easy to overlook. It makes you someone people don't take seriously. And that's the real problem you're facing. People don't see you as a man with weight, influence, or authority. They see you as someone who bends, someone who yields, someone who chooses comfort over respect. Most men cling to niceness because they fear the alternative. They fear being disliked. They fear confrontation. They fear someone calling them difficult, demanding, or intense. And because they fear these labels, they avoid becoming the man they need to be. They hide behind this mask of endless pleasantness as if it's going to solve their life. But what has it solved so far? Has it solved your career? Has it solved your relationships? Has it solved your self-respect? Of course not. If anything, it has created a silent frustration inside you because you know you're capable of being more. Yet you keep choosing less. Niceness is what men resort to when they don't want to level up. It's easy. It doesn't demand accountability. You don't need to be disciplined to be nice. You don't need to be strong to be nice. You don't need courage to be nice. You just smile, nod, and hope the world goes easy on you. But the world doesn't go easy on anyone, and the world especially doesn't go easy on men who project zero strength. People respect difficulty. They respect boundaries. They respect someone who stands firm. They respect the man who speaks clearly, who knows what he wants, and who doesn't compromise his principles just to avoid discomfort. Niceness becomes dangerous when it becomes your identity. When you start telling yourself, I'm a good guy, that's why people should treat me well. But life doesn't reward goodness, life rewards strength. You can be the sweetest man alive, but if you lack a backbone, you will lose every negotiation, every opportunity, every relationship. People are not drawn to niceness, they are drawn to certainty. They follow clarity. They admire confidence. The problem is not that you're nice. The problem is that you rely on niceness as your only currency in a world that respects power. At some point, you must confront the truth. Being nice has created a version of you that people don't fear losing, don't take seriously, and don't respect. You've made yourself too safe, too compliant, too easy to predict. And deep down, you know this. You know that you've allowed people to overstep because you were scared of conflict. You know you've avoided standing up for yourself because you didn't want anyone upset. You know you've allowed yourself to become soft because softness required no effort. And the worst part is, you've begun to resent yourself for it. You've begun to feel that quiet anger inside you, the one that whispers that you were meant to be stronger, sharper, more assertive, more unshakable. That feeling isn't wrong. That feeling is the real you asking to be unleashed. People don't respect softness. They might appreciate it, they might enjoy it, they might take advantage of it, but they do not respect it. Respect has never been built on comfort. Respect has never been given to the man who makes everything easy, who bows his head, who avoids pressure, who hides his power just to keep the peace. Respect is drawn to strength. And you need to understand that strength has nothing to do with aggression or dominance, and everything to do with the weight you carry. People feel your presence when you are a man who commands himself first. They listen to you when your words are supported by action and discipline. They take you seriously when you walk through life as someone who knows what he stands for. You must understand the psychology of human beings. People are wired to look for strength. Not because they are intimidated by it, but because strength creates security. Strength communicates clarity. Strength communicates certainty. When you walk into a room with your shoulders back, with an identity shaped by discipline, with the tone of someone who follows through, people feel it instantly. They may not know why, they may not fully understand it, but they react to it. That reaction is respect. That is the unspoken language of strength. Softness, on the other hand, creates uncertainty. When you are too agreeable, too accommodating, too easily swayed, people don't see you as someone who can guide, protect, or influence. They see you as someone who adapts to the situation rather than shapes it. That is what kills respect. You become a reflector instead of a source. A man who simply mirrors what others want is never seen as a man who carries authority. Respect is rooted in the ability to stand firm, not in the ability to conform. Strength is not loud. Strength is not about shouting, intimidating, or forcing anything. Real strength is quiet. It's controlled. It's steady. It's the man who doesn't get rattled, the man who doesn't fold, the man who maintains his composure, even when things get chaotic. That kind of strength demands respect without a single word being spoken. People know when they're in the presence of someone who has conquered himself. That's the man who is trusted. That's the man who is followed. That's the man who is respected. You want respect, but you keep behaving in ways that communicate the opposite. You apologize for things that don't require apologies. You let people speak to you in ways you should never allow. You say yes when everything inside you knows the answer is no. You compromise your standards to be liked, and then you wonder why nobody sees you as someone with value. Respect isn't given to men who throw their boundaries away. Respect is given to the man who holds the line, even when it's uncomfortable. Too many men believe that being liked is the same as being respected. It's not. Being liked is easy. Anyone can be liked. All you have to do is stay quiet, stay agreeable, stay harmless. But being respected requires sacrifice. It requires you to stand alone sometimes. It requires you to do the hard things, even when people don't understand. Respect demands discipline on the days you don't feel like it. Respect demands a standard that you refuse to break, even when that standard makes other people uncomfortable. The world respects the man who can endure pressure, not the man who avoids it. When life hits him, he doesn't collapse. When things go wrong, he doesn't panic. When a challenge appears, he doesn't make excuses. He steps forward. He faces what others run from. He does the work, not because he wants praise, but because he has expectations for himself. That is strength, and that is what people respect. Even if they don't admit it, you must become someone whose presence carries weight. When you speak, people should pause, not because you are loud, but because your words come from a place of truth and consistency. When you move, people should notice, not because you seek attention, but because you live with purpose. When you commit to something, people should know you'll follow through. That's when respect becomes automatic. That's when your name starts meaning something. That's when people look at you and understand they are not dealing with a man who bends just to be accepted. They are dealing with a man who stands because he has built himself from the ground up through strength, discipline, and unwavering standards. You spend so much time trying to be liked that you've forgotten what it feels like to actually live for yourself. Every decision you make, every word you say, every move you take is filtered through the question, will they approve of me? You've conditioned yourself to exist in a way that keeps everyone comfortable except you. You bend your personality, you shrink your strengths, you silence your opinions, all because you're terrified of someone thinking you're too much. And while you're drowning in the need to be liked, you've ignored the truth staring right back at you. Being liked has never built anything powerful. Approval has never created greatness. Validation has never built a man of value. The moment you start living for approval is the moment you stop living with purpose. You turn into a puppet, pulled by strings of other people's opinions. Your actions don't come from ambition, they come from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of disappointing people who don't even carry the weight of your own life. You've given strangers and temporary relationships more control over you than your own goals, your own standards, your own future. That is why you feel lost. That is why you feel directionless. You're not steering your own life anymore. You're just trying to avoid disapproval. People don't respect the man who seeks approval. They sense it. They can feel when you're trying too hard. They can feel when your actions come from insecurity and not from strength. They look at you and think, he needs us. He needs us to validate him. He needs us to tell him he's enough. And the moment they sense that, they stop seeing you as a man who has value and start seeing you as a man who needs permission to have value. The world doesn't respect men who beg for acceptance. The world respects men who build worth through discipline, skill, consistency, and integrity. You must stop chasing their approval and start building your value. And building value is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with instant recognition. It comes from long hours of isolation where you're grinding, learning, improving, sharpening yourself when nobody is watching. Value is created in the dark, far away from the cheap rewards of being liked. Being liked feels good for a moment. Being valuable changes your entire life when you shift your focus from, I want people like me, to, I want to become a man people can't ignore. Everything changes. Your energy changes. The way you move changes. The way you speak changes. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop bending and start building. You stop apologizing for your ambition and start honoring it. You stop letting people drain you and start letting your work speak for you. People begin to notice that you don't need them to approve of you. And ironically, that's when they start respecting you. Approval is cheap. It's handed out easily and taken away just as quickly. Value is earned. Value is built. Value is undeniable. A man of value doesn't need to convince people to respect him. They can sense it. They can see it in his posture, in his consistency, in his work ethic, in his discipline. They can feel the difference between a man who is shaped by others and a man who shapes himself. Once you realize this, you stop living for likes, attention, and validation. You stop performing for people who contribute nothing to your life. You start putting your energy into your goals, your growth, your mission. You start making decisions that align with who you want to become, not who you want to impress. You understand that real respect comes from value, not likability. People may not always like you, but they will never ignore you when you're a man of worth. They will never disrespect you when your life reflects strength, purpose, and standards. They will never forget you when you become the kind of man who doesn't beg for approval, but earns influence through undeniable value. You keep wondering why people walk all over you, why they take advantage of your kindness, why they ignore your needs and push past your limits. And the answer is painfully simple. You don't have boundaries. You haven't drawn a line. You haven't declared what you will and will not accept. You've never shown the world the difference between access and privilege. When a man has no boundaries, the world will test him relentlessly. People will push, they will pull, they will take, and they will drain you until there is nothing left. Not because they're evil, but because human nature tests the limits of anything that appears limitless. A man without boundaries becomes a man who gets used. A man who gets used becomes a man who gets resentful, and a resentful man becomes a man who starts blaming everyone except himself. But the truth is, the responsibility was always yours. You thought being understanding would earn respect. You thought being flexible would make people value you. You thought tolerance was a virtue, but tolerance without limits becomes self-betrayal. When you let people do whatever they want around you, to you or with you, you teach them exactly how to treat you. And once you've taught someone you have no boundaries, you cannot be surprised when they walk straight over you. Boundaries are not rude. Boundaries are not aggression. Boundaries are self-respect turned outward. They are the invisible fence built from discipline, self-worth, and clarity. They tell the world, this is where I stand. This is who I am. This is what I will not tolerate. And when you start living with that level of certainty, people feel it instantly. They may not like it, but they will respect it. The people who get mad at your boundaries are the ones who benefited from your lack of them. The reason you struggle with boundaries is because you fear being disliked. You fear that saying no will make you look selfish. You fear losing people. But look at the reality. Even without boundaries, people have still left you. They've still mistreated you. They've still undervalued you. Trying to keep people by abandoning yourself never works. And the emptiness you feel inside is the cost of giving everyone else permission, while giving yourself none. A man's boundaries are shaped by his identity. When you know who you are, Saying no becomes natural. When you have purpose, distractions become unacceptable. When you have standards, chaos becomes intolerable. Boundaries come from understanding that your time, your energy, and your peace are not free resources for the world to take. They are earned. They are protected. They are limited. And when you start treating them like they matter, other people will too. You need to practice saying no without explanation. You need to stop apologizing for choosing yourself. You need to stop allowing people to dictate your time, your emotions, and your priorities. Every time you bend your boundaries to make someone comfortable, you make yourself weaker. Every time you ignore that feeling in your chest telling you, this isn't right, you betray yourself. And every act of self-betrayal builds a version of you that no longer recognizes his own worth. But the moment you draw a boundary, something shifts. You'll notice the room gets quieter when you speak. You'll notice people think twice before asking you for something unreasonable. You'll notice that the ones who truly care about you adjust to meet your standards, and the ones who were only there to take from you fall away. Boundaries are the great filter of life. They separate the genuine from the opportunistic. They separate the people who respect you from the ones who simply use you. A man with boundaries becomes a man with presence. He walks differently. He talks differently. He makes decisions from strength, not fear. He becomes a man who cannot be controlled because he controls himself. And once you experience the power of boundaries, you'll start realizing how much of your life you lost by living without them. People want respect without paying the price for it. They want admiration, authority, and recognition, yet they live every day like their actions don't matter. They think respect is built on personality, on charisma, on the way they talk or dress. But none of that holds weight if your discipline is weak. Discipline is the currency of respect. It's the invisible backbone that separates serious men from forgettable ones. A man who cannot control himself cannot control anything, and people can sense that instantly. They look at you and see a man ruled by impulse, inconsistency, excuses, and emotional reactions. There is nothing to respect in that. Every day you live without discipline is a day you show the world you cannot be trusted with responsibility. You skip the gym, you hit snooze, you break the promises you made to yourself, you give in to every distraction, and then you wonder why nobody sees you as a man of value. Why would they? How can others take you seriously when you don't take yourself seriously? Respect isn't earned through speeches or declarations. Respect is earned through routine, through actions repeated until they become who you are, through discipline that holds even on the days you feel tired, unmotivated, or overwhelmed. People admire consistency because it's rare. Most men quit as soon as things get uncomfortable. They break under pressure. They give halfway effort and expect full credit. They demand praise for trying instead of victory for enduring. But the man who is disciplined doesn't need applause. He doesn't need encouragement. He moves because his standards demand movement. He acts because he refuses to be owned by weakness. He follows through not for the world, but because he made a promise to himself, and he will not live as a liar. There is something magnetic about a man who is disciplined. He wakes up early with purpose in his chest. He trains his body because he refuses to be a prisoner to laziness. He works on his mind because he understands that focus is a weapon. He builds his skills because he knows value is created through effort, not wishes. You watch a disciplined man and you automatically feel something shift inside you. You notice he doesn't complain. He doesn't procrastinate. He doesn't look for shortcuts. He simply does what needs to be done. That's respect in its purest form. Discipline makes you reliable. And reliability is one of the strongest foundations of respect. When you say you'll do something and you actually do it, people start to believe in you. They start to trust your word. They see you as someone who can carry weight, someone who can be counted on, someone who doesn't collapse when the world applies pressure. Reliability turns your name into a promise. And when your name means something, you become a man people look to instead of look past. You need to understand something important. Discipline is not about controlling your surroundings. It's about controlling yourself in any surroundings. The world will always try to distract you, tempt you, soften you, and derail you. But discipline is the armor that keeps you aligned with your mission. It protects you from your own excuses. It silences the voice inside that says, "I'll do it later." It forces you to take action when everyone else is resting. It shapes you into someone even you cannot ignore. And here's what most men never learn. Discipline creates freedom. A disciplined man has freedom over his time because he's not constantly playing catch up. He has freedom over his emotions because he doesn't let impulses drive him. He has freedom over his future because he builds it intentionally. Discipline is the tool that unlocks every other form of respect. Respect from others, respect from the world, and most importantly, respect from yourself. You cannot demand respect from people when your own habits show weakness. You cannot expect people to value your time when you waste it yourself. You cannot hope for others to admire your strength when you crumble at the smallest inconvenience. If you want to be respected, you must become the man who earns it daily through consistent discipline, unwavering effort, and a lifestyle that proves you are in control of yourself rather than a victim of your own comfort. When a man decides he wants respect, real respect, he has to stop waiting for the world to hand it to him. He has to stop assuming people will automatically value him, listen to him, or treat him like a leader just because he exists. Respect is not something you ask for. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself every day. And this is where most men fall apart. They want to be respected, but their lives tell a different story. They want others to treat them like men of stature, but everything about their habits, their discipline, their attitude, and the standards they accept proves they haven't earned that position yet. This is the uncomfortable truth most people run away from. But the men who face it become unstoppable. A man worthy of respect is a man who knows how to stand on his own feet. Not in arrogance, not in ego, but in identity. When he speaks with clarity because he's not confused about who he is. When he moves with purpose because he's not drifting through life hoping things will magically work out. You can always see the difference between a man who's grounded and a man who's lost. The grounded one doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to prove himself. His actions, his discipline, his consistency, and his results speak louder than any words ever. Could what makes you respectable is not how loud you talk, how aggressive you pretend to be, or how many times you tell people to respect you. It's the way you show up when nobody's watching. It's the choices you make when there's no applause. It's the work you put in when nobody is giving you validation. Men who become worthy of respect don't live for approval. They live for alignment. Their lifestyle aligns with their principles, and their principles align with the man they're trying to become. They hold themselves to a standard that most people can't even comprehend. People look up to you when they see you hold the line. When life becomes difficult and you don't fold. When stress hits and you don't crumble. When temptation shows up and you don't fall for it. Strength is not built in comfort. Respect is not built in convenience. You earn it by doing the things other people cannot or will not do. That is why discipline matters so much. Not because discipline is glamorous, but because discipline is proof. Proof that you can command yourself before you ever try to command anything or anyone else. If you cannot discipline your mind, your habits, and your emotions, then why should the world treat you like a man of authority? People respect consistency. They respect men who do the hard things repeatedly, whether or not they feel like doing them. They respect the man who works in silence while others wait for motivation. They respect the man who builds himself piece by piece while others complain about how unfair life is. Respect grows when people watch you overcome things they know would have destroyed them. They see you take pressure and turn it into performance. They see you take responsibility instead of making excuses. They see you stay focused while everyone else is distracted. That's when they realize you're not like the rest. That's when respect becomes the natural reaction. Another key part of becoming a man worthy of respect is how you treat others. Not in weakness, not in passiveness, but in a controlled and firm manner. A respectable man doesn't treat people poorly to feel powerful. He doesn't try to intimidate. He doesn't seek attention. He operates from a place of stability. He treats others with fairness, clarity, and boundaries. He isn't afraid to say no. He isn't afraid to walk away. He isn't afraid to stand alone when principles are on the line. That kind of strength makes people pay attention. They know you are not moved by approval, pressure, or fear. They know you are driven by something deeper, and respect grows when people realize you live in truth, not emotional truth, not convenient truth, actual truth. When you say something, you do it. When you commit to something, you finish it. When you give your word, you protect it. People learn they can rely on you. They learn that you don't break easily. They learn that you don't hide from challenges. The world respects a man who becomes a pillar, a man who becomes dependable, a man whose presence brings stability instead of chaos. If you want respect, you have to stop trying to act respectable and start becoming respectable. You have to build the version of yourself that deserves respect before you ever expect it from anyone else. You have to show through your lifestyle, through your discipline, through your decision-making, through your daily actions, that you are a man people can trust, follow, and look up to. Respect is earned through self-mastery long before it ever comes from the outside. Now listen closely. Everything we've talked about isn't theory. It isn't philosophy. It's reality. Being nice without strength has never earned anyone respect. Living for approval has never created value. Avoiding boundaries has never built influence. Neglecting discipline has never produced greatness. And hoping for respect without earning it has never worked for anyone in history. Every man you admire, every leader, every person who commands attention and influence has built himself from the inside out. They've faced the uncomfortable truth that life doesn't reward softness, excuses, or complacency. They've chosen to do what the average man avoids, to carry weight when others shirk it, to stand firm when others bend, to act when others hesitate, to rise when others settle. If you want to become a man worthy of respect, you must stop asking for it. You must stop waiting for others to acknowledge your value. You must stop hiding behind niceness, behind people-pleasing, behind convenience. You must take responsibility for yourself, your habits, your actions, and your presence. Build the discipline that makes you reliable. Build the boundaries that protect your energy. Build the standards that others instinctively follow. Build the value that cannot be ignored. Step into your own weight. Stand in your own authority. Be the man who commands respect because he has earned it, because he is unshakable, because he is disciplined, because he has refused to settle for anything less than what he is capable of becoming. Respect isn't given, it's claimed. Influence isn't offered, it's built. Power isn't inherited, it's earned. And it starts today with the choices you make, the actions you take, and the man you decide to be in every single moment from now on.